Hello everyone, welcome to Spellsword version 2.0.0. This is just going to be a little preview that shows you the mod in action. The mod is actually almost completely done. So without further ado, let's get started there. So started off, first things to note is that I am in Skyrim SE. You can tell because it's very beautiful. I've got a really, for me, it's a long load order. It's like 100 or so mods, 125, 150, something like that. And it's run, although it's kind of choppy because I'm recording. But anyway, that's not normally the case. Got a lot of really good mods that have some scripts, have some other that are for graphics, etc. So yeah, so all the testing you're going to be seeing is on a build that I'm actually going to be running a character on. So yeah, if there's any sort of script latency or any script problems, I'll be able to detect it. Okay, so version 2 obviously was this big change that, by the way, this video is probably going to be long and rambly because I'm not going to edit it, I'm not going to do anything. This is just for anyone who cares to know. Anyway, so version 2 was this big infrastructural change on how Spellsword worked. And in particular, a lot of people had asked for, like, oh, I want mod support so I can use apocalypse spells, and oh, I want the ability to cast like rune spells or whatever. And so I had to like completely and fundamentally change the way that spell enchantments work. But the good news is that it seems to have worked, and I think it's working really well. Like I said, the mod is almost done. I'll show you as we go along, like the few things that I have left. So okay, I start the game, and I did Live Another Life, and I actually did an extension on Live Another Life, and now I am part of the Imperial Army. What is it? Penitus Oculatus? Something like that. Anyway, I'm probably saying that wrong. And so come out here, and here you are. The only thing that's happened so far is been given the quest, like last time, oh, get this Spellsword manual from the MCN. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to MCM, down to Spellsword. Nice, cool logo. And in main here, we're going to obtain the Spellsword manual. And I'll show you some of the cool new options in the MCM, because that's actually going to be really important for the functioning of the mod. So yeah, Sky UI is fundamental, and you need to have Sky UI to run Spellsword, but that was always the case. Okay, so now on the quest, I've got the Spellsword manual called Combat Casting, and I should read it to learn how spell enchantments work. So I'm not going to go through it in this video, but I'm going to open this up. Oh, look, you've got this cool manual. It goes over how to cast, and I'm just going to talk about it to you as we go along. So yeah, one thing to note there, it says concentration spells. Oh, yay. So there's concentration spells, there's all spells, there's every mod kind of spell. There's actually shouts and just everything, so like fully functioning shouts. Okay, so you read that, and you go, oh, I'm going to start with a spell weapon. Or you'll notice that not only can you do bows, but now you can do shields and jewelry. Now you can't actually cast the spell with the jewelry. You can with the shield, but you can't with the jewelry. But the jewelry will hold more spells. So I'll get to that in a minute. But let's just say we're starting normal. So we're going, oh, I want an Imperial Sword. Cool. So the quest is now complete. And I've gotten my first spell weapon. Okay, so you'll notice something completely different from Spellsword version 1, and that's that the enchantment in this case is just a spell. It doesn't tell you what spell's on it, it doesn't have any other auxiliary effects like fire, ice, whatever. Although I'll tell you right now, those do exist too. There's something like 20, 30 different spell enchantments in here, and there's plenty of them that have fire and ice and a few other special ones, which I'll show you one of momentarily. So those exist, but the starting weapon you only get just like this basic spell weapon. And so yeah, it doesn't have any spells on it or anything. It doesn't look like it does anything. As a matter of fact, if you try to equip it and try to do any spell casting, nothing's going to happen. So you need to fill this with a spell. Another thing I was able to do is the, you might have even seen the messages up here, but there are spell weapons that are distributed across the world. They are random, and the spells on them are random, and you can even randomize the spells on them to include the spells from mods. So I've actually got a patch that I made for Apocalypse on right now, and so the spell weapons that are being distributed across the world, they're including random spells from Apocalypse, and even to the point where I tiered them, so you're not going to find like high-level Apocalypse spells, at level 5. Now, keep in mind, you can run any spell mod in Spellsword without the need of a patch, but it won't distribute the spells across the world without that. And there's one other thing about sounds, which I'll actually show you an example of here soon. But besides that, you can use any mod with Spellsword without a patch. So, okay. So, I made another little mod to showcase how to make a patch called Arcane Shockwave. All it was is just me making a new spell. And so to get Arcane Shockwave onto my Spellsword, all I need to do is equip it in the right hand, and then press the casting button on the weapon. This might change because I'm using someone else's Shockwave Flash file for this, and I was unfortunately not able to get their permission to use it in my mod, so I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with this yet, but that's literally the last thing I need to figure out, and then I just need to test the scripts. Okay, so so you'll notice that it only contains one spell, so there's only one spell slot. So which spell slot would you like to spell enchant your right hand spell into? Well, the only one there is. Would you like to append the names of this item's spells, if there were multiple, in parentheses to the end of its base name? Yes, I would. So what that's going to do is going to say, oh, it's an Imperial Spellsword Arcane Shockwave. Okay, and now you're done. You can play Spellsword like normal. So this spell is one that I've always really wanted, and it looks like this. Okay, so that's cool. What are some things I can show you? So, let's go through the MCM because it's kind of important. Ready? Yeah? Okay. So not too much has changed in regards to some of the mechanics, at least for the user end. There's still the spell charting graphics. I now have a change graphic, by the way, so if you're going to change spells, it does this, and it also tells you up in the upper left-hand corner what the spell you've changed to is. So that's how you toggle between your different spells that you have equipped. That's just like before. So you can use those. You can toggle that. But the thing that is more important here is these two new features. So you're going to get shout spell weapons later, so they can only, or they can hold shouts in addition to spells, and this option right here makes them use shouts the way they're intended to be used, with a really cool change that it actually uses this multiplier too. So that is to say, let's say you put Unrelenting Force on one of your weapons, and it's got, I actually forget the time, but let's say it's like 45 seconds, or we'll say it's 50 seconds just to make my math easy, and you drop this to 0.5. If you cast Unrelenting Force with your spell weapon, it only needs to cool down for 25 seconds. You can also just cast it with magic by turning that off, but I think the shout cooldown is cooler. And then there's also this cast on power attack. So if you want something more like a Blood Scald Blade or something where you actually, I can just turn it on for you. I'm going to just turn all the costs off for now because I'm cheap. That or I'm making a video demonstrating features, but whatever. So now I'm not going to cast spells by swinging. I have to hold down the button and power attack to cast a spell. And if you're like, oh, but I want it like Blood Skull, this takes us perfectly into the controls menu. this is actually completely the same as before, but you've still got the toggle and auto casting. So now if you just press it, nothing until you do a power attack, and it keeps working. And if you don't like the charge color of like blue or whatever, you can turn that off. Oops. Okay, but anyway, I'm not gonna keep those on because that's not how I prefer playing. Although if that's how you prefer playing, that's great. Okay, make sure everything's open. Cool. So now, this is the most important part right here. You'll notice this third, customize spell enchantments. So, you're gonna have like, you know, necklaces or shields and weapons with multiple spell enchantments on them. And it's kind of nice to be able to keep them organized. So this is what this menu is for. So you notice that all I have is this one spell sword on, and it's got one spell slot, so it's not that big a deal. But so it tells you the name of the spell that's in that spell slot, the base cost, and a few different options here. So there's these sounds, which you'll find that sometimes they are autofilled, so that it'll autofill for vanilla spells and any patch that's been made. Unfortunately, if you like let's say you did Forgotten Magic Redone and there's not a patch for that, you're gonna have to manually go in here and change these yourself, but whatever. That's not a big deal. Luckily these also persist, so you notice I just changed this to bound weapons, so I can like throw this away and I can do whatever. I can change cells and come back and pick it up, re-equip it, and that actually persists on the weapon. So these, even if you can't see them, like when I unequip that, you can't see that anymore. You can only see equipped spell items in here. Those settings still persist. So there's this last one here, which is block to cast. And this is what used to be the defensive or offensive spells. Now you can just choose what you want. So if you're like, oh, I want my Arcane Shockwave to like only be cast on block, you can just do that. So that's cool. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Advanced, that's not going to be for you guys mostly. If you don't like distributing leveled items, you can deal with that here. There's probably this might be it for now, but there might be some additional advanced features. Okay, so I know that over here, I'm gonna toggle God mode real quick. Oh, script latency or something. Yeah, script latency. That sucks. I think that's just coming from all my mods or something. I don't know. Yeah, let's unequip this. Oops, I didn't mean to drop it. Oh no, I'm silly. No script latency. I think everything's fine. Yeah, it's still blocked to cast. Okay, everything's fine. Nothing's broken. Okay. This isn't where I meant to go, but I am going to keep this. Okay. I meant to go up here. There we go. Man, this frame rate is awful. Okay. Because I saw this earlier. Spell Tome Soothe. So, I was talking about why you need to make patches for different spell mods. So here's a spell that came from either Campfire or Frostfall. It must be Frostfall. So let's learn it. And let's equip it. And I don't have another spell weapon, so I made a batch file earlier, and I'm going to send it to myself. So I can get another spell weapon. Notice this one's pretty cool. So this is a Dwemer Advanced Spell Sword, and technically it already has a spell in it, but it contains one spell, but all spells in this weapon can be changed at any time. So unlike this one, where, oh, yeah, there we go. The spell slot is currently filled, and this enchantment does not allow it to be changed. Oops. It has to kick you out of the menu, so you'll just have to get used to that. This one, you can change at any time. So we're going to put Soothe on it. And everything's cool. Notice there's no charging sound. And while there is a sound that comes from the spell, there was no release sound that came from attacking. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where it's like the spell won't be distributed across the world, so you won't find any spell weapons with Soothe on them. And it doesn't preload any sounds onto it, so you're going to have to manually do that yourself if you want them. You can also make some really weird sounding things if you want. Water breathing's funny. It's like a splash of water. Let's try this again. Yeah. Which actually is kind of fun to play with, because you can make it sound a little more epic than you normally would have. Okay, so what else? So I did make a Apocalypse patch, and I do have Apocalypse loaded right now, and that little batch file I ran actually gave me, or it was supposed to give me access. Oh, yeah. Give me access to certain spells. So I got Dragon's Teeth, Mind Vision, and Raise Wall. And I picked these because this one looks cool. This one has an interesting script that runs, and this one is concentration. So, and they're different schools. So, one thing I will tell you is I've gone through Apocalypse and I've tried out not the whole range of spells by any means, but definitely quite a few of the spells. And there are a few that don't work as well, but I'm going to leave it to you, the player, to figure out which spells you like putting on your weapons and which don't work as well. Because there's no way I can manually curate all the spells. Okay, so let's go ahead and try Mind Vision first. Actually, let's try Dragon's... Where did that go? Dragon's Teeth. Just because this one's pretty normal. Okay, so there's Dragon's Teeth. Notice because I made a patch for Apocalypse. Oh, by the way, the patch making process is significantly easier than it ever would have been, because I actually built it to be modular. So if you're like, oh, I really like Forgotten Magic Forgotten Magic Redone, I think it's what it's called. I've not made a patch for that, and I don't think I'm going to. But if you are even somewhat knowledgeable about Creation Kit, all you end up needing to do is make a quest, put a script on it, and I'll distribute the script, so you can just pull it straight out of the mod. And then there's just a few fields that you put onto it to make the spell distribute across the world, to make it auto put the sounds onto the weapon, and one last thing. Oh yeah, to allow the MCM to have access to those special sounds. So you can make those on your own, and I'm happy to link to anyone who wants to make patches, and just like on the main page be, oh, if you want a Forgotten Magic patch for Spellsword, go to this user. But yeah, so Apocalypse, I did that already, and it was grueling. It was so much manual labor. But because of that, now I've got either just auto-loading or special Apocalypse-only sounds that are auto-loading. And this is distributed across world. Okay, I'm beating a dead horse. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Oh. But there we go. Okay, so there you go. There's an Apocalypse spell that just kind of works out of the box. So what else do we have? Oh yeah, well, let's do Raise Wall first. So this is a concentration spell. So one thing I should note about concentration spells is they're, well, there are two things. One is because of their nature, you can only cast them by blocking, and you can't modify that in the configuration menu, unlike all other spell types. So it's like, it's just going to force you to block to cast. And they're occasionally kind of buggy, but not in a way that ruins your game, and not in a way that leads to save bloat or anything. It just kind of like, it sometimes will just stop casting, and I'm pretty sure something's calling a function, like one of your mods, or maybe it's my mod or something, that is calling a function that says, oh, stop casting now, and then your player just stops casting. The sound will keep playing if you keep holding block, but whatever. So concentration isn't as perfect as I want it to be, but like there's literally no other option. So so anyway, there you go. Apocalypse, concentration casting. And if you notice, it went away before I let go my block because something just forced it to. Could be some other mod, could be my mod, I don't know. But for the most part, it tends to work well enough. So I'll try it with flames here, just a vanilla spell. Oops, not that one. So. And there you go. So it finally died there. So you're probably not going to be able to like just spam concentration for more than like 5-10 seconds, but that's fine, I think. Okay. So lastly, Mind Vision, because this one's really interesting. I'm really happy with this. So this was something I was a little worried about. I'm like, oh, what if spell mods have effects that are like really unique and really scripted or something, right? Like this one, what this does. Here, I'll read it for you. See through the eyes of target creature or humanoid for 10 seconds. And so I was a little worried with this, where I was like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work with Spellsword because I'm scripting the casting of spells. But, as you can see here, except I have to hit him. There we go. It seems to work just fine. As a matter of fact, I think we can... shoot, I don't know where my character is. Oh, there he is. Yeah, that seems to work pretty well. So even some that... I don't actually know if that's scripted, but I assume it is. But even some of these ones that are scripted, they're working pretty well. And a lot of these end up working pretty well. Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't know if there's too much else to say. Like I said, the choppiness of the screen is because I'm recording to hard drive right now. That's not my mod, and that's not even the other mods. It's just OBS software. Yeah, anything else I want to say about Spellsword? Oh yeah, I guess I should give you the ETA. So, okay, one thing that's my last problem that I have to deal with is how I go about putting these spells on the weapon. So imagine I'm like, I don't know, Arcane Shockwave. I'm like, I want to put this on this weapon. This pressing the button and this thing popping up right here turns out is not trivial. And you have to write like Shockwave Flash player software, or scripts or whatever action. You might not need to do action scripts, but definitely uses a .swf file. And I know nothing about that, as you can probably tell from the way I'm talking about it. And so I could either delay Spellsword by like months and months and months to try to learn that, and then, you know, it's paywalled, so I'd have to pay money to do that. Or I can do a few other things. One thing I was thinking of is, instead of doing it here like this, let's say you equip it in your right hand like normal, and you equip this in, say, your left hand, and you can already tell there's going to be a problem with two-handed weapons or two-handed spells. But besides those, then you can imagine coming into here, going in your customized spell enchantment, and when you don't have a spell on something you have equipped, it just says none here. I can imagine maybe like pressing a button here, and it says, oh, do you want to equip, or like, do you want to fill the spell slot with the spell in your right hand? And it just does it right here. But that's not going to work with two-handed weapons. So the other option, and I know I can do this one, but it's the clunkiest of the solutions. Let's say drop it. Hey, where did it go? Where did my sword go? Well, I have no idea where my sword went. That's weird. Okay, well, let's try that one. That was super weird. Anyway, you can like Z hold it or whatever they call that. Like,
Have I made myself clear? See,
wait, what
that
is he
it
saying?
doesn't happen again.
I don't know what he's whining about. Anyway, I didn't have my headphones on, so I couldn't hear what he said. You hold it like this, and then you press like spell inventory button or something, I don't know. And then you can fill it that way, but I hate that, but I do know it works. So you can imagine maybe a combination of those two. Another third option is, and I also don't want to do this, is the mod where, oops, I don't know why I'm coming in here. The mod where this filling came from. I could just make that a requisite to download. Yeah, so I could just be like, so this comes from Jackson's Renamer. And I can be like, oh, well, to use Spellsword, you need to have Jackson's Renamer, and then Jackson still gets all the downloads for the Shockwave file that they distribute. But I also don't like having dependencies other than SKSE and SkyUI, so I don't know what I'm going to do there. But the only other thing after that is I need to test it a lot. I have done, as you might guess, plenty of testing with this so far to make sure that everything sort of works in isolation. But now I just need to like go through and very like basically play a mini game where I'm leveling up and I'm making saves and I'm reloading the saves and blah blah blah. I'm just doing a whole bunch of like actual playing going on to make sure that there's nothing weird going on with the scripts, and they should be fine. Like I said, I've actually tested them quite a bit, but just in case. So I need to do that. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, it's basically done. I've even sort of added some of the polish, as you've seen, like this cool logo. And I actually have some other little treats that come along with this. When you download it, there's going to be a few other options for you as well. So it'll have Apocalypse. It'll have Requiem, although Requiem might not be on 2.00. Requiem will probably be on 2.10 because I like to give Requiem a special treatment. You can actually still play this with Requiem if you're like, no, I gotta have it. So it's not a big deal, but you'll have to manually set the sounds yourself, and you won't be able to find the spells in the wild. But yeah, there will be a few other goodies too. So anyway, I'm probably just kind of yapping at this point, so I'm gonna cut the video off here. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions, especially if you've got an idea for how I can fill this weapon with spells from here. If you're not as familiar with papyrus scripting, it probably won't. I mean, feel free to still give me some ideas, but the problem tends to be like the functions that are available to me, not a lack of imagination. So it's more like if you know some function, you're like, oh, actually you can do this with this random function in the form script or something, like feel free to tell me. But you know, if you have an idea anyway, feel free to tell me. And yeah, with that, I think I'm gonna let you go. So look forward to Spellsword version 2. I don't know when. I need to figure out this Jackson thing. Maybe it'll be this week. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. More than likely it'll be next week, so whatever that ends up being, like October, let's see, today's the 7th, so it would be 14th, 20, like early 20s in October. If everything goes according to plan. Maybe sooner, maybe early teens if things go smooth. But it could also be November. I don't know. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.